Attention, please. The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
There we go. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Midwest Racks and Rods Outdoor Show. I am your host, Scott Biskobing. I joined in studio here today by my good hunting buddy, longtime friend, Mike Thelen. How's it going, Mike?
Hunting bunkmate.
Bunkmate, yeah. Longtime friends. I mean, since sixth grade, and we're not even going to talk about how many years ago that was. But if you want to do the math, our 30-year class reunion's coming up this year. Are we going to do that this year? I think we should. I was actually talking to Sarah about it.
Did you really?
Yeah, I said, I don't know. I'm like, I think maybe this year is the year we should go. It's kind of during that, we won't, I mean, what some people will call the October lull, but we'll see. If there's a cold front that comes in, then maybe not.
And we'll wait till the 50th.
Exactly. But, yeah, like I said, welcome back, everybody. We've been on a little bit of a hiatus here. I've been kind of busy. Some of you may know I've been hosting the Hunting Beast Report with Dan Infault here Tuesday nights. So that's been keeping me pretty busy here. We're 4 weeks into it now, and so it's just been kind of an adjustment here, working out with his guests and things like that, and trying to make both things work here. But I think we got it dialed in now, and I'm looking forward to getting back into the swing of things here. Luke, if you could pull up the YouTube graphic there, just something I want to share with you guys right now. This is going to be our last episode that we do streaming on Facebook. We are going to be streaming exclusively on YouTube from here on out. And that's simply because of monetization reasons. Facebook doesn't pay the bills, so to speak, as well as YouTube does. And we started doing the dual stream a while ago, and a lot of you have kind of just stuck with us on the Facebook side, and we appreciate that. But what we would really love you to do is go and check out our YouTube page and like and subscribe over there. Maybe hit that bell so you get the notifications of our upcoming shows. That would mean a lot to us, honestly. And I understand it's probably going to take a while for some of you guys to migrate over, and we know not everybody sees the show live, and some of you are watching after the fact. But if you could, it would be fantastic. We'd appreciate that. Saves us a little bit of a headache too. Sometimes there's some issues where streaming doesn't work on both sides. It's only 2025. Technology is still pretty new, so.
Well, it's just as easy to watch on Facebook free.
Right.
Or I mean on
YouTube.
Because a lot of times Facebook, it's like it jumbles the order of things. Then you're like, where is the latest?
Exactly.
Where's the latest show? YouTube, you can just go straight to it.
Exactly. You can go straight to YouTube and just watch it. And if you're hitting that notification button, you'll get a notification. If you're subscribed, you'll know when we're going live. And like I said, we'd appreciate that very much. So, with that said, we also have another guest with us here tonight. And not to make things confusing, but Mike, we have another Mike. Mike Mason's with us.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing well.
You're coming to us live from where?
Oh, we are in Shed Pub headquarters in Washington State.
Awesome.
So,
the Shed Pub. Tell us a little bit about the Shed Pub because it looks fantastic. I know I've seen some pictures in that, but you have a pub built in a shed. Is that right?
Right. So when my wife and I moved here, we had this shed out back that was, on the outside it was sided just like the house, but on the inside it was just bare walls and a lawnmower was in there, and I took one look at it and said, a guy just needs to have a bar. So with a little bit of YouTube magic and probably an over-engineered plan, we built a shed out of it. Had a bunch of people help me out. My brother came and helped me do the floors, and had a bunch of people just watching YouTube videos and helped me put together. So yeah, we have the Shed Pub.
That's awesome. It looks fantastic. It's kind of a little bit like our studio here. I mean, you could probably do a show right here.
Oh, most definitely, most definitely.
I mean, works out well. So, Mike,
Yes.
you are originally from Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
And
Born and raised.
born and raised right here, actually from our hometown. And if you guys have caught some other shows here in the past, I know I'm getting this kind of weird echo. Are you picking up on that?
From you?
I don't know. What's that?
From you?
Yeah, I don't know. Is it me moving the
Minor.
minor? All right. You have you were originally from West Bend here, and if some of you guys have seen some past shows, Mike's called in and that, and it's usually when we're talking about turkey hunting.
Oh yeah.
Mike's got a big
turkey
passion for turkey hunting.
Oh,
So why don't you tell us a little bit how you got into turkey hunting, how that all started? Because as of right now, you are currently the president of the National Wild Turkey Federation, Vancouver, Washington branch. Is that right? Did I get that right?
correct.
All right, awesome.
Correct. Yeah. So my turkey journey started. Oh, it started with Grandpa back in the day. Grandpa was a huge whitetail hunter. My dad as well. My uncles. Um, but then there was this one season that Grandpa and a couple of my uncles would go way up north to hunt this mythical beast called a turkey that no one ever saw in the lower
Right.
part of Wisconsin. So that's how it started. I didn't know anything about it. It was too far to go. I was too little, and as I grew up and moved around and did stuff, I found myself out in Washington State, where I picked up fly fishing pretty quickly. It's a huge fly fishing mecca up here. And one fall afternoon, I was out fly fishing, and I heard this thunderous gobble behind me. It scared the living daylights out of me. I didn't know what it was. I had no idea. So that kind of piqued my interest. We finally figured it out. It was a bunch of turkeys, and I'm like, God, I like Thanksgiving. I like turkey, and I'm pretty food motivated. So I'm like, wow, I got to shoot one of them. So, you fast forward, I ended up coming back to Wisconsin for a few years, 2007 through 10, and that 2009, it was the fall of 2009. I shot my first turkey over at the farm just outside of West Bend, not too far away from where you guys are now.
That's awesome.
Really wasn't hunting because the farmer told me that they came to the corn crib every afternoon at like 4:33 on the dot, and I didn't know how to call. I don't even think I wore a cam. I just walked out from behind the barn and with a shot shell that I used for pheasant hunting, and I blasted a turkey. And I thought to myself, well, this is easy. They're not smart. Fast forward a few more years, I find myself back in Washington State, and the bug hit me again. I'm like, I got to go out and hunt for these guys. So, of course, watch the YouTube channel, get a couple YouTube videos going, and I'm like, okay, I get the gear, and then off to the woods I went, found some public land, scratching away at a box call that I picked up at an outdoor store, and lo and behold, I got a gobble back, and I was hooked. It's the only thing I heard or saw that whole season, but there was something that hooked me, and I'm like, it's not as easy as walking out to the corn crib, apparently. So, yeah, that's how it started, and every year for the last 4 years, myself, a couple buddies, my son, we've been getting out in the woods during our season in Washington, and every year we learn something new. I'm still chasing my first Washington Tom, and yeah, here we are. It just every year the passion grows.
Sure, absolutely. It's funny that you say that, like how it was easy just to go behind the corn crib, right? I mean, how many times have we seen that? Like, well, this is a piece of cake, Once like you think you got it dialed in on getting a turkey, right? This is a slam dunk, and then the very next time you go out hunting them, they're like, nope, we're gonna show you just how tough it can be, and just it can be an absolute grind getting after them. For example, and we'll get into Mike Thalen's season here, maybe after the break here, but talking about some of our past seasons that we've had, right? And
there were some tough ones.
Oh, for sure.
Jeez.
I mean, how many years did it take us? I mean, because we were kind of self-taught, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was just something like we wanted to be out in the outdoors even more than we were. We were spending time out scouting in the springtime, shed hunting, doing these kinds of things. And we're like, man, maybe we should really get into turkey hunting. And I want to say we probably started that like 2009 or something like that. And neither one of us knew anything about turkey hunting. We were self-taught, much like your shed bar. We were YouTubing it, watching YouTube videos and watching some of the stuff that the Drurys had out and things, just trying to pick up anything you could. But really, we didn't really spend a lot of time with that. We just spent time out in the woods, right?
Right.
We just spent time trying to figure it out for ourselves, and we struggled. We would get close.
Not due to a lack of calling, though.
Right.
Well, it's been 20 seconds. Do it again.
More calling. But honestly, it was one of those things where we just enjoyed the time out there. But what was I saying? Oh, how many years was it before we finally were able to close in the deal on a Jake? I mean, it
was at least 3 or 4.
3 or 4 seasons, yeah, in that. Like it just being completely clueless and not knowing what the heck we were doing. Thinking we thought we had an idea. I mean, I think we had a general idea, but at the same time, we were just really just winging it.
You were just out there catching ticks for 4 years in a row. While I sat right next to you.
Right. He started with the permethrin, or however the hell you say that stuff. And I'm a firm believer in it now. I think the first year that Mike sprayed all of his clothes down, and we sat side by side out in the field turkey hunting, and I must have pulled 36 ticks off me in just one morning.
Whoa.
And Mike didn't have a single one. I'm like, so where
did you get that stuff?
Where'd you get that stuff from?
That stuff works.
Oh, it absolutely does. I didn't get a single tick on me this year either. Not a single one. It's crazy how well that stuff works. I mean, I'm sure it's probably giving us cancer, but I mean, what isn't nowadays? Right?
That's for years from now. It'll be fine.
RFK is going to shut the permethrin thing down too.
We don't have the ticks out here in my side of the state as much as the Midwest does, apparently. I know they're out there. I mean, but I have yet to pull one off of one of my legs or anything like that. I just haven't run into them. It's either that or I'm really careful where I walk.
That's crazy. I mean, compared to, I mean, this might have been a down year because I don't feel like there was a lot, like. I mean,
I thought it would be worse because it was was kind of mild. It's
Yeah.
not like it just barely warmed up. I mean, it was nice for a while before we got out there. I thought it would be a lot more.
Right. I agree. All right. Enough about the ticks. Although we could talk about ticks a whole heck of a lot. And some of the funny stories of where they've ended up.
Oh, they went away everywhere from what I hear.
Oh my God. I guess we might as well tell
Yeah,
one story
yeah.
or whatever. This is some years back. Everything's 5 or 6 years ago, right? When you get to our age, there's no time reference anything unless you know a specific date. Everything's, it was like 4, 5, 6 years ago. It might have even been longer than that. But anyways, the morning coffee was calling my name. And I had to go venture off my own. And I was prepared, with the accoutrements needed to take care of said situation in the woods. And as I'm pulling my pants back up, my hand rubs across one of my cheeks,
Uh-oh.
one of my ass cheeks. I'm like,
Oh,
well,
boy, here we go.
that doesn't something doesn't feel right about this. And a little strategic maneuvering with my cell phone to try to take a picture and get a good look at what was going on back in that area. Yeah, sure enough, there was a tick that was quite embedded in said butt cheek.
Oh no!
So I made my way back over to Mike and I said, "What did I say?" I said, "Houston, we have a problem." And he's like, "What? You didn't make it to the right tree in time? Like, what are we talking about here?" I'm like, "I got a tick embedded in me." He's like, "Where?" I'm like, "In my right butt cheek." He's like, "I don't know what you want me to do with that information." I'm like, "Come on, help a brother out here."
You did show it to me though. I mean, I saw it.
Right.
So I'm like, "Yep,
Like
that's
I needed some confirmation. I dropped trowel to make sure that I was
still right here." I can picture the whole thing.
This right here is the mark of a true friendship.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's not many. I mean, outside of you and maybe my brother. I mean, my brother would have done the same thing. He'd been like, "Well, I'm going to pull down my pants. You got to check me now too." But anyhow, so Mike, tell us a little bit more about what it's like hunting turkeys in Washington State, because I'm quite certain it's vastly different than. I mean, I'm sure there's similarities that we have here in the Upper Midwest, but I would also imagine it's also quite different.
Well, we have a real stark contrast of environments. We have where I live in the Vancouver, Washington, on the west side of the state. We have it's called the wet side. We're the Cascade Mountains west is, and we would get a ton of rain. So it's side. Higher up it's alpine forest, and we have eastern turkeys that are primarily on the wet side. Now we don't have large numbers of eastern, and the flocks are far and few between, but they're there. And then once you get past the Cascades, that kind of split the state in half, north to south. When you get on the other side of the Cascades, headed east, that's where the Merrimans are. Massive population of Merrimans from the northeast corner, kind of in a funnel down to the southern edge of the state, and they follow the lower hills, and it's mostly oak scrub. A mix. It's where the forest turns from hardwood to fir. So you get a lot of oak mix in there, and the Merrimans really like that. And then we have a population of Rios in the southeastern corner of Washington State. So it's like Spokane South. Idaho has a pretty good population of Rios. So depending on what you're looking for, and those birds, the Rios, are kind of like you know they like the forests, but it's lower elevation. You find those on the big ranches, the big grain fields, and things like that, lower elevation. Merrimans are kind of in the middle. Um, I have some property that's about 2,000 feet, and it's loaded with Merrimans, all the way down to just a few feet above sea level. So they're the Merrimans are a real the real entrepreneur of climate, so to speak. You can find them just about anywhere, except on the wet side. For whatever reason, they're moving west through the Cascades, but they're not established real big populations on the wet side. The easterns somehow really like the pine forests of the wet side of the forest, or wet side of the Cascades.
Okay. Quick question here. Is there any hybriding going on? Like, is there ever a crossover with any of these? I feel like that's a thing, but now I'm not 100% certain. Do you know?
I don't know, and I'll have to. That's a good question. I'll have to ask. Each of those biomes or environments overlap, so I would suspect there might be some hybriding going on. Probably with the Merrimans and the Easterns. I'm sorry, the Merrimans and the Rios, because they would seem to be the ones that would overlap. But that's a really good question. I'm going to have to ask about that, and I'd be curious to see what those birds would look like.
Right. I mean, I feel like there is. I mean, we've seen it with even. I mean, there's been like reports with like pheasant in Turkey, even. That there's like this weird hybrid. And Mike and I are quite certain that Mike Thelen and I, we're quite certain that we encountered that early on. I mean, it was a weird situation. There was some peacocks that were domesticated, or where there was a peacock farm near us, and for whatever reason, the peacocks got out, or they were just let loose in the wild. And we encountered, and what we thought was a hen turkey, but it did not look, it looked like half hen turkey, half pheasant. And I mean, boy, I'd have to really go back into my photos, but I'm pretty sure I got a picture of it. And even back then, the quality of that picture probably wasn't that good. But what was crazy about it, and I don't know if this is an actual thing, that peacocks can sound like turkeys. This was calling back to us just like a hen turkey.
Really?
And it jumped up onto like this kind of hinge cut tree, right? Am I remembering this correctly? I'm not imagining this, right?
No, I mean, we saw it pretty clear.
Yeah.
It's like turkey head, but then all the iridescent colors that doesn't go along with it.
Right. Without the big, huge, long, I mean, obviously it was a female. It didn't have the big plume of feathers like a peacock. Actually, right. So a female would be a peahen. Everybody just calls them all peacocks, but it's a peahen is a female. Peacock is the male version.
How did they get the different names?
Cock. And I think it comes from chickens, roosters.
Yeah, well, probably.
That is provice.
It has a lot to do with attitude, I suspect.
Yeah. But anyways, it was crazy. I mean, because we're like, what are we looking at here? I mean, we weren't that novice. I mean, we'd been hunting. I mean, especially myself. I mean, I've been seeing turkeys since I was, 10 years old, going out hunting with my dad and that. Like it wasn't, I mean, not a lot back then, obviously in the 80s, but yeah, it was really, really weird because it responded to all of our calls and it called right back. So
and it wasn't skittish at all like a turkey would be or something. I mean, it was there for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, we had lots of time to sit there and stare at it and be like, is it something?
Right. I mean, we know turkey, like Eastern turkeys, that they have those iridescent feathers to them.
Mhm.
When you get up close to them, this was different. This is on a different level. This was like from, I mean, what would you say it was 30, 40 yards away, something like that?
Colorful, kind of like.
Yeah.
Not just
there
a
was
slight hint of it. It
of
was
that
like,
iridescent, but it had some definite color to it. I'm like, it was really weird. We had no idea what we were looking at. And
and we didn't shoot it.
well, obviously, we knew it wasn't a Jake or a Tom of any sorts or an actual peacock. I don't know if there's open season on peacocks. I mean, it actually might be a thing because, you don't know for sure if that's like an invasive species. No, you know what I mean. Especially if they are going to breed with turkey stuff. I just got a thing here. Did we lose our signal here, Luke? I'm getting a thing coming up here on my end. Not sure if we're actually live here. I mean,
Yeah, you are. You're live.
we're still good. Okay, all right. Maybe it's just on my
I
phone
can-
here. So that whole crossbreeding thing, I do believe it is a thing. If anybody's watching and wants to comment, if they know for sure, I'd appreciate knowing that. But what have you seen with Merriman's? And that's such a funny name for a turkey too, like the Merryman,
I have no idea where that came from.
right?
I'll have
The
to ask.
Merryman turkey. It's like having hunted both Eastern and Merriman's and whatnot, outside of the terrain and some of those things, what are the like personality trait differences that you maybe have noticed, if there is any? Like, do they react different to certain things, to decoys or to calls or anything like that?
I've only had my just a handful of experiences with the Easterns. The Eastern turkeys seem to be uh, very, very much aware of their surroundings. I mean, they're very skittish. Something seems out of place, they're gone in a heartbeat. I've only gone after them. I targeted them one last year, and that was it. And I got some gobbles, and I got some to come in, but they hung up at like 50 yards, and they weren't taking the bait. Whether they busted me with some of my camouflage or something, I'm not sure. But I my observation was that they're very wary, whereas the Merrimans. Now, of course, every hunt is unique, but from what I've noticed, even with being out this year, the ones we had a couple that we called in just last weekend, and they came in like a bullet. Heard the first gobble way far off, and every call we made, they responded back. Um, it seemed like the Merrimans once they decide that, hey, I'm going to go after that hen, that's what they're doing. Where the Easterns seem to do a lot of circling and just seemed a lot more wary to me. Now, you may get some Eastern hunter from Washington here that's like, no, that's completely wrong. That's just my experience.
Yeah.
But the Merrimans are sneaky. I think they got a racket going on. Personally, I think that they've traded some eggs off to the Bears because the last 2 weekends in a row, my hunt got interrupted by black bears, and that being that close to a predator, 10 feet away, it'll put the pucker factor going.
All right, right, absolutely, and I saw your post about that, and we talked briefly, but let's hear this. Let's hear the story on this.
Okay,
Run it down for us.
the first one that happened was about 2 weeks ago. A good buddy of mine that I hunt and fish with out here, John, was with me, and we had a blind set up, and have birds out maybe 20 yards in front of us. And we're calling and we're getting a response. And I'm like, hey, that bird's coming in. And mind you, this is the first time I decided to hunt with a bow. Our good buddy Jason, motivated me to like, all right, I'm gonna put an arrow through a turkey for my buddy Jason. And so I partly think that he had his hand in this because he likes to have a good laugh, and he got one. So we're sitting in our blind, and we got a tom on the line. He seems pretty hot and heavy. Is responding to all our calls. He's closer and closer and closer. We figured he was about maybe 25, 30 yards away on his last call. And we're like, here we go. 10 minutes, he's going to be on top of our decoys. Got a perfect shot, but nothing. Not a gobble for 20 minutes.
Wow.
I'm like, what happened? He can't see us. We're in the blind. And out of the corner of my eye, I caught a brown cinnamon-like looking color about 20 yards away. And it was the biggest black bear or cinnamon bear I've ever seen in my life. And she was huge. Now, I call her a she because I just got that feeling that she was huge. And, I have the video where I nudge my buddy and I'm like, there's a brown bear. I mean, a black bear. I mean, a cinnamon bear. Where? And he looks over out one of the portholes of the blind and he's like, holy shit. And he's pulled his sidearm and I'm like, hold on, let's see what she does. She could smell us, but she couldn't see us. And she knew we were somewhere in front. And I was just kind of frozen there for a second. I didn't have a shot. I couldn't pull my sidearm or anything like that. I was on the other side of my buddy. And she just kind of must have got a good whiff of us, hopped down, and we heard her crash through the brush. And
Okay.
About 5 minutes later, right behind us, about 25, 30 yards, she starts chomping her teeth. And you can hear that click, 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 click of her teeth and grunting. And I'm like, you know what? I think this hunt is over.
I don't blame you. That's a little unnerving for sure.
I'm puckered right now.
That was bear encounter number 1. Bear encounter number 2 happened just this last Saturday. Saturday morning, I was on a sit. I didn't hear anything all morning. Heard some crunching in the brush. It could have been a deer, could have been an elk. Wasn't sure. And I just had turned my head and up popped a medium-sized black bear, jet black, beautiful brown face, healthy-looking younger bear, looked like a younger male. So I did what you're supposed to do. I stuck my head out of the blind and yelled, hey, bear, hey, bear. Well, he looked at me and then he stood up. Now, on hindsight, I could see why he was probably a little aggressive because all he saw was the blind and then some human head stick out of it and yell at him. So he stood up. And before I could do anything else, I pulled my sidearm, put a shot in the stump next to him, and he just slowly went down on all fours and took off into the woods. And I was like, holy crap. So if a black bear is that close, he was about 10, 15 feet away. And if you call out to them and yell at them and you show yourself, my problem is if he saw my head. Now, if he saw my whole body, he would have probably 90% of the time would have just took off. But all he saw was my head. He's like, oh, that's small enough. I could probably crunch that. And being a younger male, he might have had a little piss and vinegar in him. So put a shot in the stump just to let him know that, hey, I'm not on the breakfast menu. So I decided that hunt's over. So I packed up my stuff, put my decoys in the blind, and started walking up the hill. And he came around the big wood pile and started up the hill towards me. he, I don't know what his deal was or what he smelled, but I mean, now I'm a full view, standing 6 foot tall human, probably a little pudgy around the middle, and he wasn't backing down. So I put a shot in the wood pile next to him, and he took off. I mean, at the end of the day, I didn't want to hurt. I didn't want to hurt an animal.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
they're curious, and
You're in their terrain. You're in their home, right? I mean,
I'm in their space.
yeah.
But I found it interesting that both of those bears came in on a hen cluck. So I'm curious, and I have yet to ask a biologist or anybody else. I have other stories of people calling in bears. But I'm wondering if they're coming in for the hen or if they think that there's a nest close by with eggs, because that's an easy meal for them.
Right.
So
at least it's a little bit of a snack, anyways. I mean, maybe not a meal,
right,
but a snack nonetheless. I mean, it's very common for coyotes to come in to calls, and that, especially when you have decoys out and they can spot something like that. I mean, there's tons of videos and stuff out there where a coyote just comes charging in, tries to snatch up the decoy and take off until it realizes it's made out of foam or rubber or whatever. It is. In fact, just recently, just a couple weeks ago when we were on Mike's hunt, while I was in the middle of calling in a bird, I heard something coming up behind me, but I didn't want to turn around because I knew the birds were coming in but I'm hearing something kind of creeping up, and it could be anything, right? And not that I was worried, but you get to a certain point, and I'm like, could it be a coyote? Just, and if it is, like, well, now this turkey hunt just became a coyote hunt. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I would never in my wildest, at least where we hunt or whatever think it's a bear. We do have the black bear around by us in central Wisconsin.
And then we did see that coyote, right? Because then we went down and picked it up, and we were walking out. It came right out of
right on the power line there.
Yeah. The same area, but it kind of followed us parallel. And
that's true. That is. I actually forgot about that.
Yeah.
So, but I can't imagine that having two encounters in one season, right? This is both this season, right?
Yeah, right. In 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's crazy. And two different bears. It's not even the bear.
Right. Yeah, two different bears. One of them was the first one was a big, beautiful cinnamon bear. We call them cinnamon bears. They have like this reddish coat.
Sure.
And I have never seen one before in my life until I've heard of other people seeing them, and they're uncommon, I suppose, or I don't think they're extremely rare, but gorgeous. I mean, healthy looking bear. Both of them, even that little black bear, the little jet black male. I mean, beautiful looking animal. I saw the comment come up. Washington State used to have a spring bear hunt that overlapped with turkey season, and but we don't have it this year. Because that would have been. I mean, man, I could have went fisticuffs with that black bear last weekend. I wouldn't have fared so well, I suspect, but
sure.
But yeah,
if you go out there someday to hunt, you can't have a big bag of Old Trapper jerky in your bag, like you did with when we were sitting.
I know. I mean, I got all the snacks in my pack. I got the fruit snacks. I got the Old Trapper beef jerky, some Swedish fish. I don't know. You had some goodies in yours too, but
well, I learned that mistake last year when I was scouting, setting up cameras, and I was my buddy reminded me. He's like, "Yeah, I had lost some cameras to a bear. I mean, the video shows them licking the camera and then finally just swatted it off the tree." I'm like, "Wow, that was crazy." Well, my buddy reminded me, "Yeah, you were eating Doritos in the car before we scouted." I'm like, "Oh yeah." So
Got some Cheeto fingers.
Bears like Doritos, apparently.
Yeah, I'm sure there's not much they don't like. Wow, that's crazy. So obviously you've had a couple of your hunts cut short this season so far. You haven't had any success this season. How is that structured out there in Washington? As we know, like in Wisconsin here and some of the other states, you have a season. There's multiple seasons, A, B, C, D, E, F, and you're applying for a season, then you're getting bonus tags for other seasons and that. So you have A, B, whatnot. How does it work in Washington?
So Washington, Oregon, and Idaho all have basically the same structure. I believe Idaho's the same one. But Washington's structure is April 1st through the 7th is our youth hunt. And then there's some parameters that define a youth hunt.
Sure.
18 or younger. They get those first 7 days.
Right.
In it.
Same here. Yep.
And then April 15th to May 31st is open season. So you get up to 3 birds in Washington State, plus a bonus tag. I'm not exactly sure how the bonus tags work out, but it's an open season. We don't have the dissected seasons like you do, A, B, C, or D. It's wide open from April 15th to May 31st, and that's the whole state. Now there are some restrictions. The area that I'm hunting in, Klickitat County, which is about an hour and a half away from where I live, you can only get 2 birds in that county, but you can get another bird anywhere else in the state.
Okay.
So 3 birds total. 2 in, I believe there's another county you can only get 2 in. I'm not exactly sure which one, but the one I'm in is a 2 bird.
Gotcha.
And then of course, we have the fall season then, and the fall season, I'd have to look at the regs, but it goes quite a bit. It's end of September all the way down to December. In certain units, it's not open in the whole state.
Okay.
Well, how long is our fall? We've never gotten it, but I mean, that's just
For fall season?
Yeah. It's just a general fall turkey.
Yeah, I mean, there's a time frame with it, and I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
But I mean, it's not divided into weeks.
No, no. I mean, and then hens.
Shoot anything.
You can shoot hens at that time.
Yep. Same with us.
Wisconsin fall season, zone specific. The statewide season runs September 13th to November 21st. Zone specific seasons and zones 1 through 5 run from November 22nd to January 4th.
Oh, there you go.
Go, producer Luke on the spot. Boy,
Nice job, Luke.
very, very.
Yeah, that was just in my head. I didn't look that up or nothing.
Round of applause for Luke.
I'm pretty sure it's very similar.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've gotten fall turkey tags in the past. I think one season, I actually specifically went out to fall turkey hunt, and that's a completely different ball game altogether. Just kind of the way that the turkeys react. There's different ways of calling. It's more of like trying to get them to flock back together, like calling them in together. It's not nearly as exciting, in my opinion, as fall turkey hunting. Or spring turkey hunting. Because at the same time, I want to be out there up in a tree stand, getting after the whitetails at that time too. But it was something Tori and I did. I think maybe 1 or 2 seasons we did it. We got tags. We tried to get after him because he had some, near his property. We weren't successful, but we also didn't try that hard though either.
It was a casual hunt.
Yeah, it was pretty casual, but I will oftentimes buy my turkey tags for fall, just in that rare instance when you are up in a tree. And I mean, it's pretty tough to get them from a tree stand. Next week, we're going to have team member Nick Faber on the show, and he'll tell a story. They got one from an elevated stand this year. which is pretty interesting. It's not something you really think about doing. It's always ground level
with the bow.
I have to double check on that. Not exactly sure. He's guided, as of the last time he checked in with me, 10 successful turkey hunts.
Wow.
In the first 2 weeks of the Wisconsin season here. So
in different areas, or kind of the same general?
Down here in southeast Wisconsin.
Good.
The guy takes the time off of work and away from his family. He doesn't do this. He doesn't get paid to do it or anything. I think he should. I think he should get paid to do it. His whole thing, he's like, I would never want to charge anybody and then them not be successful. I'm like, so you set up your guide services if you only get paid if you're successful, kind of like a lawyer, right? We only get paid when we get money for you, I think that's the way to, but he just enjoys being out there. I mean, Nick Faber epitomizes the, our hashtag of always outdoors. That's he lives for it, and much like our co-founder Jason Schrader did. He's just sick for it.
Yeah.
So
I have some pretty strong opinions on guiding for turkey. I had this conversation with my son out in a blind a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We were sitting there and we, weren't getting any gobbles or, just nothing. And I felt really bad for him. So I'm like, God, I'm giving my kid a terrible experience. He's going to not want to do this anymore. I said, buddy, we can go and see if one of the guides has an open spot and they know where the turkeys are. They can take us right to them and then we can get our turkey. And he said, Dad, let's just learn how to do it on our own. It's okay if we don't get one today.
Oh, yeah.
And at that moment, I was so proud to hear that from him, knowing that the chances of us getting a turkey that season were pretty slim. We're still learning, and for him to say that, because I could, $500 will get you a turkey out here. There's a ton of guides in Oregon and Washington, some really good guides. I'm not bashing the industry or bashing the guides themselves. It's just something that I don't want to do. I want to do this myself and learn how to do it. I don't want to go to someone's private land. Like I got my first, bird. I don't want to go to the farm and shoot it at the corn crib because I didn't learn anything from that.
Yeah.
I didn't spend any time out there. So that moment was a big deal for me. And I was really proud of my son for him to take that opinion of, no, let's do it ourselves and let's figure it out.
Sure, I know, and I can completely agree with that. There's just some guys, and I wouldn't say like having somebody guide you is necessarily the easy way, but it's definitely an easier way. We didn't go that route either. I mean, we learned through trials and tribulations, spending countless hours and years of not getting a bird, until we finally got that one Jake to come in and I was able to take it and it was like, for both of us, it was super exciting. Like we figured it out, and we still hadn't figured it out. Don't get me wrong.
No, but that was enough to kick it up another notch where it's like, okay, now let's start next year, let's get out early and start putting cameras out.
Right.
It kind of was that one little extra nudge to like really get into it a little bit more.
Do you use cameras at all in any like scouting and up?
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
Do you find any success with that?
We've gotten a lot of good success on getting once the snowpack melts, and that's the key issue for us because we're hunting at 1,500 to 2,000 feet up, and depending on the season. 2 years ago, we had 14 inches of snow. Everything was covered, and I didn't even put the cameras out. It was end of March, middle of March, and we had another snow. We had another snow event come in and dump 6 more inches. This year, we had a light snow in the lower elevations, so I was able to get my cameras out early. And you can kind of figure out over a couple of weeks of you get a few birds on one camera, you get nothing on the other one. So you'll move the other one, and after about 3 weeks, we kind of had a pattern that we could start to see, depending on how we placed our cameras. And that to me, that's something I learned on my own, by just getting out there and dropping cameras here and there. And so we started to learn the areas where they're coming from, where they're going to, uh, their access to the water source, their access to feeding, clear cuts, where they're going. So that's helped out a great deal. So I'm a believer in cameras. My best camera is a 10-year-old SD card camera that takes like 20 batteries. It's picked up the most birds, and it's just the luck of where I placed it. So you don't need to spend $500 on the most technical cell phone camera that alerts you every time. I mean, it's nice, but as long as you get out to check the cards and see what's happening. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, for turkey, you're not worrying about bumping deer out or anything. I mean, it's just for turkey. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I appreciate the cell cams and stuff to kind of catch some movement. Maybe this year that we didn't do that this year at all. Like,
No.
We didn't have any cameras out running this spring, and quite honestly, I'm not even really overly concerned about it. I think going forward, because I feel like we've learned enough and have become better as turkey hunters overall. I don't think we do that. We've learned to become a little bit more mobile, make adjustments on the fly, being more proactive instead of reactive to things. Right. And honestly, this has been one of the more enjoyable seasons I've had, just because it hasn't just been sitting there and being complacent and trying to call and letting them come to you. It's been more about trying to get after them. So a lot more things I want to talk about here. And I know we're already kind of coming in on an hour here already, which is crazy.
Oh, wow.
But we're going to take a quick intermission, and then we're going to talk to Mike about his early season six here, and talk to Mike Mason here as well about how what his plans are for the rest of his season. So stick with us, guys. We'll be back in 5 minutes.
What is an eponym? A person after whom a discovery, invention, or place is named or thought to be named. There are very few eponyms in the hunting industry. A product so popular and so functional, it becomes the act of the product. So how does something become an eponym? It's the best, hands down.
All right, we are back. Thanks for sticking with us, those of you that have. We've been talking turkey hunting here, and for us here in Wisconsin, we've had our last season. Everything okay over there, Luke? Super duper. You and I were out season A, the first season here, and why don't you go ahead and tell us how that shook out?
It was quick and it worked out perfectly. And then we had kind of a long couple days after that.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, we had a plan, go out there, no blind or anything at first because we had to leave the house at 3 a.m. to get up early. Yeah, we walked out. We knew generally where they were. We got out there, heard some, not too much, one little. Yeah, when we were stopping and waiting at first, didn't really hear too much.
We were out there a good hour before.
Yeah.
Before first light. Before even like gray light or anything like that.
Then we had to kind of make that call. Do you go? We knew where they were. Do we go this way or this way? To kind of go around. And kind of took the quieter, shorter path and thought, well, that's good. And yeah, walked out there, found a spot real quietly, put the decoys out, got up under some pines just off 15, 18 yards off the trail.
Yeah, actually, we set up pretty close there. We just, because we were kind of looking like if we go any further than where we are,
yeah, they could see from the.
Will we get spotted? And we're like, all right, we're gonna make a dash here. We're gonna set the decoys here and make a dash up to those white pines, and that were low hanging, and just kind of call from that spot right there and just kind of see,
Yeah, we knew where they were kind of. We knew there was a big opening for them to come out of too. Not that they have to take that way, but there was a path for them to go that way. Yeah, sat up there, gave it a little bit, started calling, and there was just that obnoxiously loud hen in the group. 2 or 3 different gobbles, maybe, hard to tell, but then that hen that just was just like a dog barking at you. Super loud and irritated. Yeah, back and forth, and it was getting closer. And then we're sitting there, and all of a sudden that hen comes walking about 10 feet away from us, right, and that's where it stopped. That's when you were kind of hearing stuff too behind you.
Right.
And yeah, it just sat there looking, and we're just sitting, and I kind of veered back down the hill we were on, back towards the decoy. Yeah, then I saw the toms start coming out, but they hung behind another tree that was on the trail and just stood behind it. 3 of them just standing there, and the hen had gotten down to the decoy and kind of milled around there for a little bit and started walking back towards the toms. And it's all great,
Right,
she already ruined it now. Right. She checked it out and I was leaving. They're not going to come now. And
right,
finally one stepped out enough, but it was still 15 feet from the decoy, 10, 15 feet from the decoy at least.
Yeah, it was hanging up. Just
stood there and kind of turned around in circles, and the other 2 kind of veered off a little bit. And yeah, in the meantime, we'd found a stick to use as a shooting stick.
Yeah, we forgot to bring a shooting stick out with us.
So you were calling. I was just waiting for one to move a little bit more, and then finally was like, I don't think it's gonna, approach and stick its head out and do the normal thing. I'm like, I'm just gonna shoot it when it turns the right way. And Yeah, shot it and it just poof, down. There was no flapping around. There was no anything.
Almost to a detriment.
Yeah.
To me getting a chance at one of the other ones because, Mike, I don't know. I'm sure you're aware of this. Obviously, a lot of times you shoot one bird and there's other times they're with, and the wings are flapping yet. It gets them excited and the other ones will come in and start attacking the bird that's down.
Yeah.
Well, in this case, I mean, this bird dropped like a sack of potatoes, like a 25-pound sack of potatoes. It just went boom. Its wing went up once, just one wing, and it just went like that. And there was no twitching. There was no those other two times to come back over. Because I said, when you shoot, you roll to your left, I'll roll over to where you were, because we were tucked in real tight. We're on a hillside and we're tucked under some white pine, and it was just enough cover for us. The way we placed the decoys, it worked out well. However, these birds were a little decoy shy. These 3 times they came in, the other 2 that were behind the strutter were nice times as well, but they all of a sudden they kind of circled way around and they were like, they just weren't feeling it for whatever reason. And especially then after the shot was, I mean, you could just see him just take off.
One kind of didn't know what to do exactly
Right,
and
kinda
took off. The
darted
other
back and
one
forth.
jumped and kind of flew off in one direction.
But
the one that we shot, I mean, that was the only one that actually fanned out and was trying to do something. The rest were just kind of
when it
hanging
finally
around.
when it finally came out, it wasn't going all the way to the decoys. It was still slightly tucked in, especially from where I was when I was calling. And I'm like, all right, like you can take the shot or whatever. And you're like, I'm waiting for it to stick its head out. I'm like, don't even worry about that. I'm like, just aim for the head. What are you going to lose? Some feathers? I mean, and he did. I mean, it was a plume of feathers all over because he was in full strut, as we often do, especially if you're doing with archery, you're waiting for that head to stick up like that. I'm like, we waited any longer and this bird was going to sketch out.
Yeah. No, if it kept turning for a while, it just sat there looking like straight at us. And then finally it turned around and paused right when it was like perfect side profile. So you had it was crunched up, but like the full head and neck and everything was right there. And
yeah. I mean,
now, were you using a Jake and a hen decoy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. DSD, David Smith decoys. It's the quarter strut.
Yeah.
I think is what it is. Jake and hen. Actually, the same decoys that Mike and I used maybe five years ago when we doubled up.
That was at 19, I think. We were looking up pictures.
19 or 20, something. Yeah, 19 or 20, 5 or 6 years ago. And they're actually Jason Schrader's old decoys.
Oh, very good.
Yeah. So I had talked to his daughter in that, and I've got some redheads and I've got some other decoys, but just for sentimental reasons. And I've been very successful with the decoys I use, but for sentimental reasons, I wanted to use Jason's decoys this year. So I reached out and I said, would it be all right if I borrowed your dad's old decoys and that? Mike and I are going back out. The last time we doubled up is when we were using these decoys.
Oh, okay.
It's funny. He must have borrowed them out to somebody else, or he bullshitted us at some point because we're walking out with them that day, and I'm like, "You hear that? We're shaking. Both of them are full of shot.
Sure.
They're full of shot, right? And every year when Jason would get a turkey, every picture was with his bow and his dirt naps.
Mm-hmm.
And Nick Mundy and I talked about this, I think, on the tribute show that we had, how he would borrow Jason would borrow Nick's shotgun as a just in case, you know.
Oh, sure.
And then decide to end up shooting the turkey with a bow. Well, either he pulled a fast one on all of us at some point, or he borrowed these decoys out to somebody else and somebody else shot him, because you look down on the inside, there's a little bit of a hole, and you look closely enough and you're shaking around like, no, that's turkey shot in there.
Yeah.
So
And both of them. Yeah.
in both of them, right? Exactly.
That's great.
And we know for a fact that wasn't the case when we had them, because in fact, that one year, because they were brand new in 2019, I think they're real new yet, maybe a year or so old.
Yeah. The first time we brought them, they were like brand new.
And this turkey's walking around. I mean, I got great footage of this bird, and Mike shoots him. I remember in the video you can hear me say, "Don't shoot the decoy." You know, I mean, those DSDs aren't cheap, man. You know, you don't want to be peppering them all up, but somebody did, because it's not gravel on the inside that just randomly in there. We could literally see the shot rolling around in there. But anyways, with that said, it was also my season then too. So I was, we were hoping obviously to double up that morning, but we had a lot of good encounters. I shouldn't say a lot, 3, and quite honestly, that can be pretty good. Where we were moving and changing positions and things and calling and getting to come in, but they were always either hanging up or just wouldn't quite present a shot, right? Mm-hmm. And that's sometimes how it goes when you're turkey hunting. The second day that we were out there, the second morning, we got out. The weather was real nice, right? We got out well before an hour before first light. And I'm like, man, it's really nice and warm and calm out there. I'm like, this is great. We're kind of, taking our time walking out. We get set up, and it just had this almost eerie calm. And for whatever reason, I heard like a rumble off in the distance, and I pulled up my phone. And I'm like, oh my God, Mike. I'm like, we're about to get hammered with a thunderstorm. And that was such a rare thing for neither one of us to just check the weather in the morning. I mean, between like when we leave the bunkhouse or before we leave, we're always, whether it's deer hunting, turkey hunting, whatever, we're always checking the weather. And for whatever reason, we just outside, we're like, oh, it's really nice.
Well, and I think we had known there was, there's a chance.
Right.
Well,
but we didn't think it was that early.
Right. And not that hard.
Right.
That was heavy.
And I'm like, we're about 20 minutes away from absolutely getting hammered by a thunderstorm. We're like looking at like all these lightning rings, and I'm like,
oh boy.
I don't know about you, but I don't like messing around with lightning when I'm out in the woods. Like, he seems so indifferent. Like,
What are the odds?
I don't know what the odds are, but I don't want to be a statistic. That's for damn sure.
What are the odds of running into a bear twice in 1 year? Come on.
Hey, I'm going to the same stand tomorrow morning, and I'll tell you if I run into a third.
3 strikes and you're out, buddy.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned that you're getting into moving around a lot more, and I when you don't know where the roost is, like for me in the area that I'm at, I haven't pinpointed a roost. Now I know that the birds in my area, they'll go to different roosts at night. They don't go to the same one,
Sure.
and they could be half a mile away from each other. So I have yet to pinpoint the area, but the area that I'm in, it's all mountain valleys. So I'm in one valley. You just you hike your way over. You might hike a mile or two to get up and over the next ridge line, and that's a whole different hunting scenario. Different birds, different types of trees. You could run into an oak stand or something like that. But I'm taking that tactic for the remainder of the season. I'm taking my blind down. just going to hoof it with the shotgun and move around a lot more. And that's something I haven't done in the past. But the more I talk to different hunters in the area, it's almost essential to be successful. Like if you're going to grind it out, you don't grind
Yeah.
it out in the spot. So there again, here you are, a third and a half, 3 years into this, and I'm learning something new, even with the birds in the area that I've been hunting for the last couple of years.
Sure. Absolutely. I mean, if you're not learning, then you're just treading water and you're never going to grow as a hunter. And making mistakes and just throwing caution to the wind sometimes isn't necessarily a bad thing. You can beat yourself up about it in the moment or immediately after. But if you apply those mistakes and understand, I think even this year, it's like, well, maybe we should have been more aggressive here, or maybe we should have been less aggressive there. The morning of that thunderstorm, at first light, it was because of a thunderstorm. The timing of everything was where it should have been, like regardless of how light it really was, and that which is an interesting thing, right? So when we're talking about when birds are coming down out of their roost, it's consistent. They know, and it didn't matter that it was super dark out yet, but it was the same time as they came down the day before. But as far as light, because of the thunderstorm, that made no difference. It was the same, within a 5-minute period, but it was way darker because it literally took some flashes of, and we knew we had gobbles all over the place. That's why they call them thunder chickens, right?
Oh yeah.
Because with every clap of thunder, are gobbling like crazy. It was a dead giveaway exactly where they were. And literally it was flashes of lightning that were illuminating this one hen that came up on the second day. And we saw the tom come up. He crested the top of the ridge where we were, and the hen was right outside of our blind that morning. But he saw the decoys, and I feel like I had the decoys set out too far away. They were within shot, within range. But what I realized this year is that it's probably more important to bring those decoys even closer, because if they're decoy shy, for whatever reason, some birds are decoy shy. They don't want to get into a confrontation with the Jake. Toms and Jakes are the more aggressive ones. And when you're using a Jake decoy and a hen, some toms just have had enough spurs to the back of their head that they're not interested
Right.
in getting into that confrontation. And I feel like this was the case this year with some of these toms. So I wish I would have brought the decoys in closer, or even not use them at all. In fact, later on, we started hunting without decoys, and we're just going to go based on calling alone.
Yeah.
Because they'll pinpoint your location,
Oh, sure.
just with calls. And
Yeah, that hen found us, and the trees were probably 80 yards away, 90 yards away, where they probably were.
where they were roosting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That thing.
Yeah, we were pretty
right
close
to where we were staying.
Oh yeah, she zeroed it right in. If we would have moved at all, she would have picked us out. She was almost from here to where our producer Luke is.
Yeah.
She was that close. Luckily, we didn't move, and we were camouflaged well enough. But it is always interesting, right? Using decoys, not using decoys, reaping, moving, being aggressive, all these different things. Sometimes it works out great. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it seems like these birds are just the dumbest thing in the world. And other times they're just
Sure.
impossible. Like you're just, want to bash your head up against an oak tree and be like, I can't figure this out. I cannot, there's nothing you can do right. They'll come in so far but just hang up just enough that you can't get a shot. And we had that so much in that first week of the season.
Finally, by the third morning, they got wise. Because the second morning, it was that same super loud hen.
Yeah.
Came right to us. But the third morning, it was there, but they weren't falling for it the third time in a row.
Well, right. And that's the thing is, like, when you have a hen like that, like a lost hen, and she's calling, you want to mimic her calls.
Right.
You want whatever cadence she's putting out, you want to try to put out that same cadence.
Exactly.
And the hope is to draw that hen to you, and in return, you're gonna have those toms following as well.
Right. That's one thing I learned with. You mentioned earlier that I got involved with the NWTF, and we started chapter. And I'm very fortunate to have some really seasoned hunters that have been hunting for the last 10, 15 years. And one of the guys in our group mentioned to me, he asked me, like, because I was telling him my stories from last season, and I said the birds were hanging up, and they're like 50 yards out. He's like, well, move the decoys in. I'm like, well, the decoys are like 20 yards away. It's that's too far. Bring them in. Well, how far are you talking? He's like, 10 yards or so. I'm like, really? But, it's these tried and true techniques that some of these guys have been doing for 10, 15, 20 years that I'm starting to learn from. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to get involved with the NWTF anyway. And found out there wasn't a chapter, and the regional guy reached out and said, hey, let's get a chapter started, was I want to be around hunters that are way better than me because I'm going to learn from them.
Yeah.
And the tricks and the tips, and some of these guys are hunting, every season for their Washington Slam, which is in Eastern, a Merriman and a Rio. And they've learned these techniques from all three species, all three different environments, and where I'm trying to stumble through it on my own. I mean, I have a wealth of knowledge within the group that I'm hunting with. The treasurer from our group, Caleb, just he got his bird. He's a bow hunter, and he's got a beautiful bird last weekend. And he's got some really good recipes too. So, but yeah, I mean, just the knowledge that you get from hanging around other hunters that have been successful in the past is going to make me learn how to do this. Now, I could drop $500 and go get a bird next weekend.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to learn anything, and that's just me personally. I'm not going to learn anything from that experience. And just to post a picture on Facebook saying, "Hey, look, I got this cool bird." I want the full Monty. I want to be the one that got out there on my own, got scared away by a bear, and finally got my bird. That's the big deal for me. And right now with the NWTF chapter started here in Vancouver, we've got some great hunters, great guys, lots of knowledge, and I'm just gonna soak it all up. Every experience they have, I'm going to soak it up. And, my day's going to come. I think I'm going to be all right this season yet. I let a Jake go earlier in the spring. I'm like, now I'm ready for I'm ready for the big Tom. So that's where I'm headed. But yeah, learning from you guys, just watching podcasts like this, videos, everything has a nugget of information that I can take away from. So,
and that isn't that what it's all about? I mean, it's
right.
If you're not learning, like I said before, you're just treading water, and sometimes you can get lucky treading water and not drown. But I think it's not so indifferent from deer hunting too. It's always a learning process. You're always learning. You're gathering knowledge, and experience is key to longevity in that realm of being successful, right?
Well, and you want to learn and do it yourself. That makes it more important to yourself if you can. And there's nothing wrong with people doing it. People don't have the opportunities, but I mean, to go and, like you said, go pay $500 or go pay $3,000 to go shoot a big deer. Is that really feel really great for you, or does it feel really great to show everybody else a picture?
Right.
Whereas if you just
As we
sat
got
there and
pictures
worked
up here
hard,
with your nice big time right there.
Whereas if you go and
It's a
work,
beautiful
and
bird.
even if it's not the biggest one, but you put in all that effort, then it's like, who cares if anybody sees this picture? Like it's all internal pride and internal good feeling that you did this.
Right.
Well, that's the way my dad taught me how to hunt. I mean, when I was a kid and I said, Dad, I want to go deer hunting with you. He's like, well, I wasn't ready yet when I was, just 8, 10 years old. When I finally was old enough, I said, hey, Dad, you're gonna come with me? And he's like, no, get out into the woods and, I'll be up here at the farm and get out in there and learn what to do. And I'm like, Dad, I don't know what to do. He goes, you'll figure it out. And it was great. That's what started my my passion for hunting and fishing. Just learning it on my own, figuring it out, and that works for me. Some folks want to take advantage of those guided. I've certainly guided. I took a guide to go fishing on the Columbia. That was a great experience. Um, but I wanted to learn what they were doing so I could go do it myself, and that's huge. So that's where I'm at right now with this whole game. I learn more and more every time I go out. I learn more about the land that the area that I'm hunting in. You know, that and just being outdoors. I mean, that for me is probably the biggest deal of all. I'm out in those open spaces. I'm up in the mountains. I've stumbled across some of the most beautiful scenery in the world,
Mm-hmm.
right in my back door. Not very far away from where I live, and you have to ask yourself, I'm like, wow, how many people are standing at the edge of this, Rattlesnake Creek Gorge that I'd never known was even on the map, and I just happened to walk out of the woods and go, holy crap, there's a 100-foot gorge in front of me.
Right.
It's amazing.
That is. And like you said, the process of figuring things out for yourself and learning is invaluable. I feel like we've talked about this so many times on this show, and I think it's a common topic that comes up, but with social media and like hunting has become a competition against other hunters, and that makes absolutely no sense to me. We all want to shoot a big buck, shoot turkeys, catch the biggest fish, and that because it's exciting and that and you want to share that experience. You want to share those pictures with people or whatever. But why does why does it need to be a competition?
Right.
It really shouldn't be. It's just, I mean, you can have pride and feel a sense of accomplishment in these things and share that with people and want to share that with people. But there's no reason for anybody to be jealous about it. Like I'm not jealous about what anybody else does or the way they hunt or because they have 4,000 acres of land and things like that. Like, appreciate what you do have. I feel like I just live that way generally in my life, like I don't live in the biggest house. I don't have, the newest truck or anything like that. I'm happy with the things I have and find appreciation in that. And I think when we apply that into the outdoor world, when we're learning things on our own, I mean, I feel like that's a big sense of accomplishment, and for as much as we're whitetail hunters, right? We enjoy the turkey hunting because it's something that we taught ourselves. Like you and I started doing together. Mm-hmm. And in doing that, and every single year we continue to grow. We figure out one little thing out different this year. Like, last year they were doing this year they're doing that. And then we're putting all the pieces together and trying to figure these birds out. Maybe we'll never completely figure them out, but I think we get a little bit better every single year. Yeah. And we've had quite a bit of success over the years.
No, it still takes a little bit of luck.
Oh
A little bit of like, yeah,
Divine-
the planets aligned this morning, but
Yeah.
it's like, but still, at least now it's like you have that confidence that it's like,
Right.
you know, it might not happen, but there's a pretty good chance. You got all the stuff to make it a very good go at it, and maybe it doesn't work out, but
Right. I mean, you can. That's the thing is you can. I feel like we have dialed things in to the point where like we are doing everything we can, for the most part,
yeah,
all the way to the point where now there's just up to the birds to not f it up. You know,
they still can make up their own mind, but
right.
it's
They
like,
still have free will to do what they're going to do, but like they still have an exit route this way, that way, and this way. But we're pretty close and we're tight and we're doing the right things, you know, to the best of our ability at this point. And they still sometimes give us the big FU. Isn't that right, Mike?
That's the variable of all. You know, if we could dial this down to where we were successful every time we walked in the woods,
It wouldn't be fun.
it would stop being fun.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be, to me, you know, the challenge for me is something that here's a challenge that I don't have all the answers, but I'm picking them up along the way, and I'm pitting my knowledge. I'm trying to use my knowledge to mitigate enough of those variables to be successful. Um, and for hunting the birds out, especially in Washington State, where you're on thousands of acres of open hunting land. You are in the wilderness. You are in the woods. You are part of the food chain in some cases. You know, with mountain
Right.
lion, bears. Um,
Cinnamon bears.
You have to be careful about if I twist an ankle and bust my ankle halfway up a mountain. You know, you're putting yourself into that situation where you don't control everything.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is the allure of me being out there and pitting my knowledge that I've gained over the years, and applying that to a hunt, to not only be successful with my hunt, but to also be successful to go out into these wild places, and see what you see and experience the mountains and the wilderness, and then make it back safely. And
Right.
that to me, while I'm young enough to do it, that's what I'm going to do. While going, I'm able to hike those ridges and get up into those alpine forests. That's what I'm gonna fish for those little trout. In those far off streams. I'm gonna chase those turkeys over the ridge, and I'm gonna put an arrow through a blacktail this fall. You know, that's those are my challenges. Those are my goals, and that's what keeps me moving. And that's what brings joy to my life. And passing that down to my son.
Sure.
And excited with the outdoors. That's probably the biggest motivation for me, and learning what my dad taught me, and my grandpa taught me, and my uncles.
Living the dream.
That's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. I've always been a big admirer of yours, Mike, for a lot of reasons. The fact that you are a veteran in that and has served our country, and that's something we haven't even touched on at all tonight. And appreciate you as a veteran and all that you've done, and you're a heck of an outdoorsman, and I know you're growing and continuing to grow every single day out there, and you're that guy that's out there frying some bacon out in the middle of the wilderness and
Absolutely.
cooking it up. I mean, it's awesome. I can't wait to get out there one of these days and do some turkey hunting with you.
That would be fantastic. Yeah, open invitation. This summer, my son and I are building the cabin. We've got 80 acres that I've decided that I got pushed around on public land for a couple of years, and I decided to drop the hammer and pick up some dirt of my own.
Sure.
So we got a beautiful south facing chunk of mountain in the Cascades. We're putting a cabin up, and we've got deer, we've got elk. Had a mountain lion on the camera a couple months
Wow.
ago. It's truly God's country, and to be out there to breathe that fresh, clean air and turn off all the digital spaces and just be in the moment. Cut a tree down with the chainsaw and build a. You know, we're building a little gazebo type thing.
Mm-hmm.
For right now until we get the cabin up. But yeah, it's been a dream of mine. Ever since I was a kid, and it's we're gonna have a great space, and we're surrounded by 20. I believe it's 22,000 acres of Washington state and federal land. So
That's
not going
awesome.
to have any neighbors.
All right. Well, Mike, I really appreciate you joining us here on the show
Thank you.
as an actual guest this time and not just a caller in.
Well,
And
I
or an
really
in
appreciate
studio
the work.
audience member.
Well, I really appreciate all the work that you've done to build this platform, and you've done a fantastic job. Um, the stories bring me right back to my childhood when we were in school. Of hunting whitetail. My first whitetail was not very far from high school. I was my first year out towards Newburgh. So.
Sure.
So yeah, I love watching you guys. It brings me home every time I watch you guys on your show. So keep doing what you're doing, and we will get you out here to Washington State,
That
either
sounds
to
good.
chase some turkeys, do some fishing, or shoot one of these blacktails. That would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be. Absolutely. So, all right, Mike.
All
Stick
right,
around here after the show. We got a little more
sure.
to talk about, but for the rest of you guys, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Midwest Racks and Rounds Outdoor Show. I want to thank my guests, Mike Mason and team member Mike Thelen. We are going to be back next week. Nick Faber's going to be in house, and we're going to be talking a little more turkey and some fishing and stuff. So stick around, guys. We got a lot of shows coming up. Until next time, always outdoors.